It is so many things I want to talk about. See as my people just stay suffer now. My country bad and my country harder now. Nowhere to go and there's nowhere to run. But I no go mind, I go put my grind on my mind. I no go fear, I go try make I dey my lane. No. Cause my brother say water no get enemy. So I no one get the enemy. And I go flow like the river. It doesn't matter what you're feeling. It doesn't matter what my brother see.
Good day and positive vibration. This is Major.
And I'm Cody Speaks.
And I'm in Jamile.
Peace and blessing. I'm rolling.
And welcome to Concern Versus Podcast, where we talk about issues surrounding our community, various issues. And today we're talking about a real issue that I'm not gonna lie, I was very naive about, but Black maternal health. And when I was reading about it, I thought about so many Black men that's just not informed, don't care, and just following the different stereotypes and things that's being said out there. But I'm gonna let Jimmy open the floor about Black maternal health, and we're gonna just jump in and we're gonna just go at it, y'all.
Good evening, everyone. I chose this topic because I knew that it was an issue. However, when I started to do the research, I hadn't realized worldwide how Black women were suffering when they gave birth to children. And it is concerning because this is across the board. It is not only in what you would consider poor countries, it is in high income countries as well. So there's been a lot of work, a lot of studies, and I'm just going to go through a little bit of what I found when I was doing my research on this. So women who are of African descent face racism in health sectors in countries across the globe. This, according to the information I found, leads to increased risk during childbirth, which can then lead to death. However, women and girls of African descent, especially in the Americas, and I'm not just talking about North America, I'm talking North, South, and the Caribbean, Black maternal deaths in the Americas are worryingly high in comparison to those who are not of African descent and those who are not indigenous. In high-income countries, you would think, no, Black maternal death is not a problem. It is. The deaths are high. Let me go into some figures for you. In the USA, Black mothers die in pregnancy 2.6 times to 4 times when 25 or older, more than their white counterparts. For educated Black women, and I was surprised at this, college degree or higher in the USA, this rises to 5 times more than white women. And you would think that they would have access to adequate health insurance, but they're still dying. In the UK, Black maternal mortality is currently 3.7 times more than their white counterparts. This is almost 4 times more. But there is a decrease from earlier findings that the disparity was 4 to 5 times more than white women. And I went back as far as 2018, and I saw at one stage it was 9 times more. So they've done some work and it's been decreasing. And then I want to come on to the case of Tori Bowie, because the Olympian, she died from complications in her pregnancy. And I've given you a link there, but you can go onto the web and you can find out there was eclampsia, and I think there was other complications that led to her death. Rest in peace, Tori Bowie. Canada now adopts what's called a colorblind approach. So there's no statistics in regards to Black maternal health, but medical professionals there, Black medical professionals, are calling for this to change. What I did find was an account of maternal racism in Canada during childbirth. And it appears to suggest that if monitoring took place the statistics would be no different to those of the UK and the USA. And although the author rightly points out that Africans in Canada are not a monolith, she appears to miss the obvious commonality. They are all Black. Neither does the article discuss the substantive African Caribbean population in Canada. Again, as I said, Canada has little or no statistics on Black maternal health. But when studies have been done, particularly one in 2016 with regards to preterm babies, the evidence is that more Black women gave birth to preterm babies than white women. 8.9% to Black mothers as opposed to 5.9% of white mothers. They also did a comparison with the USA. So they then said, although the numbers for Black women in the USA were higher, when they adjusted the risk ratios, preterm births were minimally higher in Canada. However, the racial disparities were comparable in the preterm births. What is interesting was I found a 2023 study, and 24 Black women were spoken to about the quality of the maternal care they received in Canada. Their comments about their treatment are similar to those countries that do monitor Black maternal health. The participants felt ignored, neglected, their pain was not treated seriously, their concerns during pregnancy were not listened to, they felt dismissed, and they were not allowed to make informed choices. A study carried out by The Lancet in 2021 found that worldwide, the risk for Black women of miscarriage is 43% higher than for white women. Most countries do not collect the statistics. The UK does not. Unfortunately, I found an article in WebMD and it somewhat misrepresented the study. It reported the findings of the study as if it applied only to Black women in the USA, and that was not correct. The study research, according to a BBC article on it, says that most of the research was carried out in Sweden, Finland, and Denmark, some of the few countries that gather statistics, though data from the US, UK, Canada, and Norway was also used. What the conclusion that I came to, and I haven't quite finished, but I had to stop here and say, well, the evidence globally appears to suggest that Black women are at risk when it comes to maternal care. And I had to think, what is the basis for this? Why? You know, in the studies, they're saying this is a problem, we need to solve it, but they're not saying why. And for me, the question is why? Black women are more prone to preeclampsia or hypertension. And there appears from the studies to be a predisposition of Black women globally, not just in middle or low income countries, but also in those countries deemed to be high income ones. So that would be America, the USA, Canada, France. But one interesting study I found is that African American women who are born in America, are more prone to preeclampsia than Black women who are foreign born but migrated to the USA. So again, what is the underlying cause?
So I just want to, I found that word that you use, eclampsia.
Preeclampsia.
Yeah, preeclampsia. That's hypertension.
Yeah.
And so I would have to just say automatically when we're talking about hypertension, I would definitely see the correlation between the diet that the African American woman partakes in on a regular basis, as opposed to those who live in the UK or even on the African continent. So definitely.
But Akoti, can I say that?
Hold on 1 second. But let's dive, not for you going there, because I'm glad Cody said that, but I have most of these definitions up. I just want to read it right. What preeclampsia is the serious blood clot pressure condition that develops during pregnancy, right? And I just wanted to just expound on that right quick. Y'all can finish talking, but y'all gotta realize a lot of black men don't know about these different words and terms and what have you, and the seriousness of it. That's why I had to interrupt. You can go on and Jim, let finish with your point.
Akoti, to come back to you on that, the studies have found that preeclampsia is high in Africa as well, and they don't have a bad diet. In the UK, their diet is similar because we have a lot of the fast food outlets that America has. But even in Africa, they're finding, and what the studies are saying is that you just have to be black for you to have this predisposition. So yes, diet is a factor, but also your ethnicity.
So I just think when I look at things like this, when they come out with studies like this, like, right, just like when they came out with the study that the so-called AIDS virus came from Africa. First they said it came from African monkeys. Then they said that it came from the homosexual community over in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so now you come up with this grand study saying that all of a sudden black women are having a problem giving birth when in the past 10 years the studies have also stated that women of the European persuasion, primarily Caucasians, are on the decrease as far as their population or their birth rate. They're the ones that's decreasing in birth rates. So now all of a sudden you have this study that says that, actually black people are having a hard time giving birth when we always had midwives. We never had prenatal pills. We never, we gave birth to many children, 12 children in the house before we were even able to or allowed to go to a hospital. Now all of a sudden we having trouble giving birth. So I don't know. Sometimes when I read these articles, I'm like, So what's the population study that you getting this information from? You know what I mean?
I think you're missing the point, though, Cody. They what they're trying to say is racism because of all this in actuality, right?
And I was going to get to that.
And they're talking about disparity as far as health insurance. A lot of black people, when they come out of Medicare and what have you, I think they speak about. I just put this article out, right, and he talked about it. But I'm gonna let Jim, because she still said she was gonna mention something about it, but it's just dealing with the fact that the way the system's set up, especially when COVID came out and exposed the different. Katrina too. Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. It showed disparity as far as income, as far as Medicaid and healthcare. Well, I'm gonna let Jim finish before I go in on it.
So, Akoti, I know that you're kind of skeptical about the studies, but these are based on the statistics that they've started to collect. And can I say, in the UK, it appears to me that it was embarrassment that this was happening while they're actually addressing it now. Yes, we had home births, even in the Caribbean, you just used to have the local midwife come around. But it's when we get into facilities that these problems are happening. It's the facilities. And again, I'm going to come on to it, but I think, let me just lay the foundation and then we can discuss it further. So I'm going to go to South America now because I did a global.
You need to narrow it down now, Jim and Lee. You need to narrow it down and basically get the gist of it so we can all come in, because, some of us are kind of familiar with the research. And like I told you, I came about the racism side, the Medicare, whatever. Some more things that got to be said too, but just kind of narrow it down. We can just start discussing it all together.
Okay. Right. South America, black women, again, have a higher maternal death rate as opposed to white women. Found the same thing in Colombia. They also found that there was a correlation between vitamin D deficiency and maternal health. In Europe, there are not many studies, but what I did find was that the little studies that were there, again, black women had more poor maternal outcomes. So basically, I'm going to conclude now. Black maternal Health is poor in high, middle, and low income countries. The statistics are worrying, but it is positive to see the steps being taken at governmental levels in the USA and UK to address this. I think systemic racism appears to be the elephant in the room, but it is not the only factor. Another elephant in the room is the health status of Black women who are more obese and suffer from other chronic ailments. Adopting a healthy lifestyle will help. And there was a really helpful paper from the Association of Black Cardiologists in the USA. So I've also seen it said that having Black health professionals in maternal care leads to better maternal health outcomes. Not always the case. And I've heard anecdotal evidence in the UK that shows that Black health professionals treat Black maternal patients more poorly than white health professionals. But I'll end it there because I want to come back and discuss some solutions, and I'll let you all come in and say what you've got to say.
Well, I flashed a couple of articles. I thought you was going to pause because some of the things you sent me, right? But I showed two of them, and basically it was really regarding the stuff you sent me in reference to the percentage in different countries, the disparity between Black women versus white women, and whatnot. So I wish you would have slowed down where we can kind of like get to the. But I'm gonna just jump to this: how we can solve the Black maternal crisis, maternal crisis. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read excerpts from it, and then I want to build off it because they talk about the things that you and Dakota just spoke about, right? Let me just run through this as brief as I can. But this problem isn't new. In fact, it has a root in the very fabric of American society and healthcare, with structural systemic racism at its core. Now, this dealing with the states, of course, but I just want to show some points that they're talking about. CDC data show that Black women are 2 to 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than white women, with most of maternal deaths being preventable. The heightens risk spans all income, educational levels. According to a study of the National Bureau of Economics Research, the wealthiest Black woman in California is at higher risk of maternal mortality than the least wealthy white women. Black burdened people are also more likely to experience life-threatening conditions like preeclampsia, postpartum hemorrhage, and blood clots, as well as increased incidence of other pregnancy-related complications like preterm birth and low birth weight. Amid a national reckoning with systemic racism underpinning American society and healthcare, advocates are pushing forward solutions from multiple angles, including reforming policy, health system, and medical education, blustering community-based organizations that advocate for better care and resources for Black moms. Now, I don't want to go too far into this, but as they talked about Medicaid being a factor. They talked about COVID-19. They also talked about how they rallied together to stop the midwives thing, whereas they would help with Black women birthing their children and whatnot, but they were showing there was like dilemmas out there, right? Whereas what was happening in the past, the midwives and whatnot, they got together and kind of outlawed that. And then when you looked at the Medicare situation and what have you, Black women that was covered versus Black women that wasn't covered, you look at COVID-19 and a lot of things that come out in this article right here is very interesting that Jimle even chose to speak about this, and it's very informative, right? So for me, what I'm trying to say is it's good that we've having this conversation because are we hearing about this in our community? No. And I believe women is Mother Earth, you know what I'm saying? And if we're talking about a delicate situation whereas you have women that's burdened children and as a result, looking at possibly dying, that's a real issue to talk about. You know, whether we know all the stats or what have you, we understand the fact that with women in general, black women in general, they always been a target, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So before I just go into it deep, I'm gonna let Roland, Nicola, you, and Jim Lee speak about it before we go into more about it.
Let me say something. When did they started taking stats on this issue? When did they started taking stats? Did they take the stats in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, or 90s? When did they started taking stats? That's what I want to know, because we didn't hear about all these in the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, like Cody said, because in our household alone, they had about 22 children. And they just had a midwife. That's why I think that this is my opinion. It is racism. It is racism all around the board, because they started taking stats after they noticed the black population has grown. And the way you stop the black population is you attack the woman. You let the woman know it ain't good to have children. And that's just my opinion. It might be something different, but when I look at it, when I hear the Queen speak, I go to looking, I go to read. I was doing my research on this too, and I try to go back as far as possible. So I went back as far as 2014. Then the information, they ain't had no more information. So the stats is just, I'm not going off the stats. That's just me. I can understand you going to country, but when they took us from Africa, we still was having many children when we didn't have all these health problems and all these things. But when you want to slow people down the race, you put stats out, you put erroneous information out there, hoping they take it and give it towards their people. And I did a research even on the sisters in the military. All the sisters in the military, when they had their kids, most of them was trouble because they were stressed out more than their white counterparts.
Well, how you feel about the discussion itself, though, Roland? I mean, I understand what you're saying, but
I love the discussion because we need this. We need this. We really need this. We really need this because we got to get this out to the people, because they got people. My niece, she was stressed out. She lost her baby. My other niece, she lost her child. You know, I also lost an auntie while giving birth. So I understand this topic at hand, but for the most part, coming up in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, they had a lot of children being born.
I'm gonna let you come and go. Excuse me, Jim Lee. But my thing is, they have the discussion itself, rather the stats are not all that's not authentic. The fact that we know midwives and us burden our own children and whatnot was a thing in the black community. We were so poor, we had no other choice. We couldn't go to the hospital, you know what I'm saying? So I get that, but I do think the discussion is very, very important. All right, Jim Lee.
Can I say to both Akoti and Roland, I respect your skepticism. And let me tell you what the UK experience was when they were in the Caribbean, like my parents' generation. They were having loads of children, and it was the local midwife that would come in. When they got here and they started to have children, the white doctors would tell them, oh, if you have another baby, you're going to die. And there is an entire generation where they sterilized elder black women. And my mom, may she rest in peace, told me that she saw a headline in the 60s, in the early 60s. Remember, my mother came to this country in 1960, and she remembers a headline saying, sterilize all black women. And in fact, I was talking to a friend today, and she actually remembers that particular generation, that first generation that came in the late 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, black people have always been in England, but that Windrush generation, that a lot of the women were sterilized, and they were being told by predominantly white doctors, if you have another child, you would die. So for instance, at one point we had families of 8, 9, 10 children. And then the mother would go in, if you have any more, you're going to die. And they were sterilized. So I do understand your skepticism, but this is what the stats are saying now. And I
Well, it's
think
not
if
even
we
about the
know,
skepticism. It's about the reality, though, Jimmy. It ain't about the
well,
skepticism. It's the reality of it.
I
You just
understand.
proved their point, though. You
I
just proved their
understand.
point saying it's sterilizing.
I understand the reality, but what we've got to do is be aware of what is being said and what is being shown in statistics so that we can address and protect our women when they go into these facilities.
That's why we have a discussion right here.
Yeah.
Because you have to realize things become trending when we talk about it. Things become trending when we revealed it. That's the reason why Concern versus Podcast was created. We have to really face things. I mean, for me personally, when I look at this discussion, it's very uncomfortable because I'm not a woman. I never had a baby. I can't even speak about, administration and what have you. And the idea of you about to bear a child and you one like me and Roland talked about earlier, did 1 foot in, 1 foot out the grave has to be the same as a saying that they say when a person a baby, and then understand disparity in wealth, healthcare, living conditions, eating conditions, all this, right? And to know that we having a conversation about Black women who we know have been targeted is deep. So for me, when I'm listening to a code and I'm listening to Roland and listening to you, in my mind, I'm like, this is a real conversation we have to have because we know people like Roland said, you have people that's family have lost a child or lost their life during birth. So for me, whether the stats are authentic or not, it's something we need to talk about.
And can I say, my friend's daughter, 18 years old, just gone into hospital. She's a sickler. She got sickle cell. Work was ignoring her pain. Found out that they were recording incorrect information in her notes, and there was the threat of sepsis. So what we're facing is real. My friend, she's just had the baby. I think the baby's about 2 weeks old, and this is what she's going through in a major hospital in London.
So let's talk about science, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the lack thereof back in the day, as my brother Roland was alluding to. So I don't know when they invented this thing called prenatal pills, but just like anything that they create, I know that they can target it based on the amount of genetic studies they've done on DNA and what have you. And so, what if there's a possibility that the prenatal pills that they're giving our women in the communities that are, wanting to get pregnant or pregnant? What if they're putting something in those prenatal pills that are causing these miscarriages or these maternal deaths? Has anyone ever considered that? I mean, because just like they were able to target certain individuals through vaccinations prior to, previously, even with the Tuskegee experiment, that drug that they gave those gentlemen during the Tuskegee experiment, that was targeted just for them. It was an experimental drug. And so they can easily say, okay, we know that the demographic that goes to this Planned Parenthood is 80% African American females. So when we ship out these prenatal pills, then they're going to get this particular dose of prenatal pills. And even with the birth control pills, we have to consider that how, now these young girls are on these birth control pills. What the hell is in the birth control pills? Because if you can't carry your baby to term, all of a sudden, we have to start looking at the correlations between the two, those prenatal pills and also those birth control pills, because that can very well affect the internal organs and how the mother is able or not able to carry the baby to full term and protect her life at the same time. Like Roland said, women were dropping 13 babies, in their span of being able to carry children to term. So something is definitely up with um, with the medical care of these ladies that are pregnant.
It, it's
I'm glad that. Oh,
it,
you go, Jim Lee.
it's absolutely the facilities, because as I'm saying to you, we did not have this. As I said, my family came here from the Caribbean, but in the Caribbean, they were having children and they weren't going to hospitals because they couldn't afford it, because like yourselves in America, you have to pay. So they were having home births and there were no issues. The issues started when they came. Well, I know you all were there, but when they came to here, they then started to experience problems with pregnancy.
Let me say this. Throughout my research, there was two black middle schools that was closed, right? And it had very less black medical professionals. And I can remember Dr. Sebi when they asked him one day in an interview for his debt about protein, right? And look what he said. It's ironic that he said this, right? He said, "I don't know if that's good, and I don't know if what they're saying is true." They was speaking about when a person lose protein in their body, and et cetera, how it affects the body in a harmful way. And he was like, "I don't know." He said, black people never thought about putting together some kind of research program regarding protein and what have you. It was calling out the fact that we as a community, like you have these Jewish hospitals and what have you, we don't have no black hospitals. We didn't think that, we don't think that far, right? So when people tell us about your research, we're talking about, right, when it comes on um black maternal health issues and what have you, because we don't have a system set up, whereas there's research, particularly by black health professionals, regards this situation, then we'll never know the crux of what's going on, the gist. And that's the issue. Even right now as we speak, Cody and Roland shared some facts that we all know about um queen that had 10 and 15 kids, right? And that was mainly back in the day. And like Cody said, which is true, the birth control thing is a big thing. And like you said, Jim, they about sterilizing women. And what I noticed is always been, and see, this the biggest issue I think in our community. We so easy to be targeted because we already segregated in the states, particularly. Your predominant white neighborhoods, your predominant black neighborhood, you know, and you have the poor of the poor black neighborhoods, and they set up shop, with the vaccinations, with the flu shot and all this, that, and other. And as much as we talk about the Tuskegee Institute, you got to talk about the LS Tuskegee experiment. You got to talk about the LSD thing CIA did with the guys in prison and stuff like that, right? They've been experimenting on like mouse and occasion what have you, and looking at it from a social, aspect, a psychological aspect, community aspect, and come with the conclusion. But my thing is, when are we gonna address this? Because we still going off what somebody else said, right? So we have these conversations, and there'll always be a side where, hey, that could be crap. It can be money. It's them, you know what I'm saying? And the funny part about it, not only we're not calling out, and we do call it out, it's like we don't have nothing to build off no more. And we know historically how it was versus now. And right now, in this day and age, you just can't be saying stuff about somebody doing something if you can't prove it, Even if you can show the lineage of how we were then compared to now. But when you look at the fact of just saying somebody doing such and such, you got to be able to prove it. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's not always easy.
No, what I'm saying is that we just those are the things that we should start taking a look at as the root cause of these miscarriages and these deaths during childbirth and experiences. What's causing it other than just hypertension? Because if you say, if you say that the women in Africa are having high mortality rates as well, then it must be something that's tied genetically. Because then if it's not the diet, because if their diet is clean but yet they still have hypertension, then that can't be the cause of the miscarriages or the mortality rate. So therefore, now you got to start looking at something else. Could it be the prenatal pills? Could it be, so we start doing our research into the effects of the long-term effects of these prenatal pills, or even these what do you call it? Not abortion pills, but birth control pills, right? Should we start looking at the long-term effects on these women's bodies for taking these birth control pills, and then all of a sudden you get off and now you want to try to carry a baby full term, and you can't. These blood clots is also could be related to that as well, with birth control. I'm not a nurse, and and I'm not a
There's a
doctor,
number of issues though. There's a number of
but
issues though.
but,
There's a
but
number of
what I'm
issues, not
saying
just
is,
blood clots
but
and blood
but
pressure.
but okay, so what I'm saying is, when you look at a woman's health, and I can say this because I'm a woman, and you deal with her menstrual cycle, and then you go and you put this man-made chemical into your body, such as a birth control, that's controlling the number of eggs that's flowing through your body, which you're supposed to naturally pass during when you have your menstrual cycle. You're supposed to pass those eggs that are multiplying. But when you're using a drug that's trying to control how your menstrual is flowing, then now you're altering the natural causes, and then you're going to have those blood clots. And that's why some women complain about having heavy menstrual cycles. Well, if you were on those drugs for some kind of while, your cycle has been altered by the drug. And then we have to start looking at the long-term effects of those drugs on the body. And that's just what I'm saying. And that could have something to do with the rising of the hypertension as well. Because when women are on their menstrual cycles, their blood pressure tend to rise as well.
Well, that's the research is all about, right? Where the Gemini shared and what have you, some of the things I shared. That's the research about. Like I said, the high blood pressure is something else I'm gonna share before Gemini say what you had to say. Because there was some things I wanted to just cover myself, and it's like what that is, what that's postpartum hemorrhage. Traditionally postpartum hemorrhage has been defined as greater than 500 milliliters estimated blood loss associated with vaginal delivery, and greater than 1,000 milliliters estimated blood loss associated with I say C-section delivery. You know what I'm saying? So the reason why I want to point it out, because I want to really kind of like get into the definition, all of these words we throwing out that people don't know. But that's the whole discussion really is about, is the fact that there is research and they're talking about it. But I do agree with you. That is definitely important. But there's a number of things, but that's a higher list of the blood pressure, loss of blood, and blood clots. But there's other factors too. And they're trying to research it, but I agree we need to do our own thing as well. And Jim Lee?
Can I say that I agree with what Akoti's saying, because we really don't know what it is they're putting into our bodies. We are rich in melanin, and melanin attracts certain things. So, one of the things I want to say, I think those birth control pills are just absolutely dangerous. They put some in Africa, as far as I'm aware, and they were having absolute problems there. So I agree, Akoti, it is about what they're putting into our bodies. And unfortunately, we have scientists that will, collude, rather than actually say, well, no, this is not good for those who are melanated.
I'm going to say this, right? I'm going to say this. Come on, Roland, you can say what you got to say.
Who's standing to benefit the most if the African woman can't give birth to children? Who's standing to benefit? The oppressors, the racism, and what you say, systemic racists. So when we look at all these things, I'm glad we're really having this discussion. This discussion is needed, because before you go into the facilities, we was doing it ourselves. Women was having children. But now when you go into the facilities, the queens are dying out. That's what the stats say. So we got to examine these things. When somebody it's one of our family members get pregnant, we have to start discussing this with them. and share these things with these, because so far I haven't seen too many my family members, friends, and associates pass from this. But when I do know that they do give them birth control, give them this shot, put something down in their wombs, because they want to stop the childbirth, stop the African childbirth.
Well, they are concerned because you know that Africa has the youngest population in the world. You do know that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
They have the youngest population. And to me, it seems as if they are trying to dampen the birth rate in the West of Black people, but they're doing it quite subtly. Well, I wouldn't say they're doing that here in the UK, but I gave you the experiences of my mother's generation and what they experienced. Again, there are issues within the hospitals, why we're having maternal deaths, why we're having miscarriages. And again, Akoti, it could be what you say. It could be also our diets. Because remember,
no, I'm not. I want to say this though. Don't forget the old population. And by we being a majority, we more they'll take a chance of exterminating us for exterminating anybody. So I get what you're saying about the diet thing, but what y'all talking about as far as what could be happening to us, you can don't forget the old population. There's not enough of food, enough of what have you go around. So there is a plan to depopulate. So don't forget that too. So that can fall into what we're talking about.
Yes, we know there's a plan to depopulate.
That's why COVID was created.
I think that's been made quite clear. And they've had several plans. Global 2000 was one. So, you know, that is something. But again, the problem for me is we know now. I know Roland says that what was happening back then and when did they start to keep these statistics? We now know what they are saying. What we have to figure out is what we are going to do to protect our community, protect some young mothers. Like my friend's daughter, she's only 18. If she didn't have a mother to advocate for her and ask questions and challenge, where would she be? They would have left that child possibly having sepsis from which she could die.
Well, I think we definitely need to encourage our young people who are considering going into the medical field or the nursing field. Well, that's medical field, but we definitely need to encourage them to get into midwifery. That is a thing. That is a specialized track. I know a young lady who graduated the year before me from high school. She is a midwife. And they do make house calls still. And so I think that it's very important that we encourage our people to do that so that we can be the ones that's advising them throughout their pregnancy and giving them the care that they need. And also encouraging our people, especially when they're pregnant, to consider a holistic diet rather than, the diet that their doctor prescribes for them, so-called good for their baby, when they're basing their statistics on samples, or the sample studies come from people who don't even have the same genetic makeup, don't even have the same DNA. So how could you give a some type of health diet for me, geared to me and my baby, and you basing it on some statistics where these people have no genetic makeup that's like mine? So we definitely need to encourage our children to get into medicine, holistic nutrition, and also midwifery for sure.
I think they're comparing us to the majority populations, but they are actually basing the statistics on the births, Black births. In America, they refer to non-Hispanic Black and non-Hispanic white, whereas here in the UK, they just refer to Black and white and other. And also, they also address socioeconomic status as one of the factors. I don't know if that's addressed in the US, but here it is.
Yeah, we do. They do have on every application. I don't care what you're applying for, your race,
Yeah.
ethnicity. I'm pronouncing that word bad, but your
Yeah.
ethnic background, your age, all that. Look, let me say this.
But what about your socio-economic status? Because here
No, they don't.
we face not only racism, very subtle, I have to say, racism, but we also face classism, because the UK is a very classist society.
Everybody do too. Oh yeah, we play classism. Shoot, trust me. If you live in a certain place, your insurance gonna be. It's a lot of things that's going on, like classism, sexism, racism. That's just heavy in the United States. Trust me. You know, you in the system, legal system. You got some money, you can walk away. You poor, they locking you up. You know what I'm saying? They throwing you away.
I know. We call it over here the postcode lottery. I don't know what you call it over there.
Nah, but let me say this. Everything we talking about is great, and that's why Concern Versus is needed, because they need to hear from us, and not just in conversation, but also in demonstrating, as well as sharing, like information that we're doing. We can create pamphlets. We can create pamphlets and do a digital thing too, right? But we can go in certain neighborhoods and pass them out, get with organizations that's about informing. So for me, what I love about this conversation, it goes deep, because we are targeted. We got to understand we are targeted, and we're easy targets to them. You know what I'm saying? They just got to be more sophisticated as how they was then. But I do believe we are targeting our back. I do believe any kind of way they can take us down, they will. You know, the genocide of melanated people have been in existence for a very, very, very long time. And then when I think about a code and some of the things she said, I mean, that's hammer on nail in reference to addressing what we put in our body, eating healthy, and so forth, so on. And definitely the research side of it. We definitely have to do our own research. We definitely need some more help professionals. We definitely need to continue this conversation, because we still at the surface. You know, it goes really deeper than this in reference to how we execute. Because right now, it's like, this is my biggest issue when it comes down to different advocacy in our community and that. Especially people that talk real big. And we talk about we need this, we need that. But there are immediate things that's happening to us that we are not even addressing. We stand away from it. We trying to get everybody focused on this one thing, you know what I'm saying? That there is things from the grassroots level we have to still challenge and deal with.
Well, can I say to Akoti, in terms of midwives and midwifery, that it was a Black midwife that noticed what was going on with my friend's daughter and actually raised hell in the hospital. And then she was moved to acute wards and consultants got involved. But if we didn't have that Black woman who knew the risk to Black mothers, then I suspect nothing would have been done. So yes, Akoti, we need more, but what we need more of is not those that are just going to follow and fall into the system, those who will advocate for us against the higher ups, if I can say that, if you know exactly what I'm saying.
So, and right, and how you, so like, let's talk about solutions now. You know, we talked about how hard it's for a Black woman to have a child, you know, and the possibility of dying, the child, the mother. And we talked about the disparities in reference to the health issues, the death, the medical Medicaid and medical help and what have you. And I know we talked about solutions, but I just want to just expound a little more on this and how we can get the information out to the people. And I ain't talking about per se, just us. I'm talking about in general. Of course, CVP Concern Versus Podcast is doing it right now. We're having the podcast, but let's really talk about some solutions and build off some of the things that Cody was talking about and whatever else you may have to say. I'm gonna let Roland come in because he kind of laid back, chilling.
The solution is, man, they got all these social media platforms. We got to utilize those things. We got to give them sound bites or whatever we got to do. And anytime you can communicate with a person, you talk to them on this issue, especially the youth. This how we got it. We this the only way to disseminate this information because we don't have no printing press to make the books. We don't have a TV, mostly for the entertaining world. That's for the you know what that's for. They ain't going to disseminate this information that enlighten the brothers and sisters so they can stop what they doing. Because who stand to benefit the most? All for African American women dying, all for brothers getting incarcerated. Who stand to benefit the most? That's what we got to look at. Who stand to benefit? Who stand to benefit the most? We've been suffering over here. Ain't nothing gonna change unless we change it. We can pick up the cell phone. We can even text. I got 300 some people in the telephone. If I could text them good morning, I could text them that type of information. Hopefully they'll look in their phone and they text somebody else this type of information. We're living in an era that we can get the information now. We sit down and discuss it and how we gonna attack this. If when I'm among
that, dropped the video on there about weaponized. I did all your
Yeah.
weaponized social media. Correct about
you
that,
see
bro.
when I'm amongst the young mothers or the young sisters, they like hearing this, but you gotta put it on their level of thinking. You can't speak above their head. And once you go to enlighten them, they're gonna share it. Just how we gotta get to them. Not just the youth. I was just talking to a sister at the job, and the queen didn't even understand about the topic. And so we just went to talking, and she just was like, that's very informative. So hopefully she go on and talk to somebody. Anytime you have a chance to speak with somebody, you can easily change the subject. Because most of the time people won't talk about the entertainment world. And you change the subject into that.
I think this has been a silent problem. And I think we need to speak about it more. There's all these studies that most probably won't get down to the grassroots, as Roland is saying. There are charities out there. I found some in the US and I found some in the UK. But as you say, the public Joe, the Joe blogs on the public road won't know. But we do need to get this out to the youth because they are our future, basically.
Cody. Well, I'm waiting to Cody come back in. Huh?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I couldn't get my cursor to work right. But the thing is, okay, so there is a bill. We're talking about solutions. So there is a bill that's in the House right now. It was introduced in May of last year by Representative Lauren Underwood. And it's called the Black Maternal Omnibus Act of 2021. House Resolution 3305. Now, that bill has been in progress to go to several different committees, I guess, for markups or approval. And the amount of different committees they have attached to this community, this bill is unbelievable. They even have energy and commerce attached to it. What does energy and commerce have to do with maternal health or the maternal omnibus bill? I have no idea, but this is supposed to be a bill that is supposed to extend Medicaid for postpartum status, right? After the woman has a baby, they call it postpartum, right? So it's dealing with after the fact, but I think the issue starts again is before the fact, the condition of the mother's health before and while she's carrying the child. So we need to get on the state legislatures to include language in this bill that addresses just that, those issues that women have to deal with prior to actually carrying a child full term, and giving them the option. This is very important, giving them the option to choose a holistic route as opposed to the pharmaceuticals, or the drugs, that the doctors prescribe, so-called prenatal vitamins and what have you. Just something food for thought, something to consider, because we have to we have to go back, even though we don't want to consider the days of old, you can't help but to think that okay, their diet probably was a whole lot worse during the time of slavery when we were enslaved as a people, but they were still having babies by a lot of numbers, and so we have to consider what's the difference between then and now.
Akoti, can I jump in here? The
Yeah.
diet may have been poor during slavery, but it was more natural. We eat a lot of processed food in this day and age. Half of the time, we don't know what's in our food, and so they may label it three ingredients, but it actually has 20. They just haven't listed it, and they're allowed to do that. So, although our diet was poor in slavery, because my heritage is from slavery as well, it was more natural. It was more natural. In terms of the Omnibus Act, I think it's being slowed down in your Congress because it's wending its way through very slowly. I have to say, in the UK, they've actually had parliamentary discussions about it. So there has been moves there. But in terms of postpartum care, here, the National Health Service, you get midwives and health visitors for the babies, but the problems are still existing. So what is the elephant in the room?
So I think you just said it. I think you just said the elephant in the room is the nutrition and what we're actually putting into our bodies. So that brings me to my next point. How, did they, in their studies that they did in concerning African Americans, because it seems to be, like you say, goes to the elephant in the room, nutrition. We talk about deserts, food deserts. The African American pregnant mother who's living in the area that's considered a food desert is at a higher risk of having a miscarriage or dying as a result of trying to give birth, as well, because of lack of nutrition. So that definitely is something that we have to bring to the forefront as an issue that has to be dealt with as a means to solving the problem. Let's start talking about nutrition that goes to what we're actually putting into our bodies.
But the conversation get deeper than that.
I
They're
think
not giving, excuse me, Jim, they're not giving out paid family leave. Some of these women that have these babies have to go back to work. You know what I'm saying? So there is a situation where they're pushing, and a couple of states already passed paid family on leave and what have you. But there's a struggle with that too. So when you speak about the different laws and what needs to be passed in reference to protecting the black woman, that's something we need to think about too. The paid family leave, because a lot of these black women having children, they have to worry about going back to work to pay their bills, and that's stressful in itself.
And can I jump in here? Because in England or in the UK, we do have paid maternal leave. I think it's 6 months. You get 6 months, and then you go to a further 6 months. So we do have that, but we're still having the deaths. So along with the nutrition, what is the elephant in the room?
I mean, personally, for me, when I researched what have you, there was a number of factors in reference to like the health part, diet, of course, systemic aspect as far as with Medicaid, you know what I'm saying, and medical health care, and just the fact that it's kind of surprising to see how black women are just dying like this, right? And it's not dealing with whether you're poor or you're wealthy. And for me, it's like there has to be some research done with this. They have to really like not just throw something out there at us and we be, oh yeah, this, that, another, but really, like do some real research, because we know historically it wasn't a situation like that. We and I'm not saying we didn't have trouble, Bird did. I'm saying, but now, it's like it's becoming alarming. And for me, it's not like the first time I heard about it, but the first time I just really dig deep into it. And I just feel like the elephant room is simple, that I feel we need to inform. We need like Roland was talking about. we didn't get out there and inform the young, from our community. I had did a video audio on Major TV Let's Talk on YouTube channel. I was speaking about we need to weaponize social media. Some people thought I was talking about talking about some crazy stuff. No, I'm talking about informing our community. And see, I think my biggest issue with the movement, with the self-determination and all this other stuff that's going on, I feel like if our community is not informed, they won't understand. Even if you were just to put in their face, they won't understand it because they don't have the information. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just bigger than just having land and owning. It's just understanding how we have to coexist around each other. And for me, it's like we have to inform. Our community is very ignorant. Our community is very brainwashed. Our community is very misinformed. So I feel like to deal with this situation with Black maternal health, we have to put the information out there. We have to have discussions. We have to network with other healthcare professionals, because if we're talking about it, right? Imagine if you know somebody in that field, right? Imagine what they may know and don't know. How you can build with them and encourage them, like Roland was talking about, to share the word. Because the thing about it is, a lot of us perish because of lack of what we don't know. You know what I'm saying? Well, I don't want to say perish, but actually be in the situation we're in because what we don't know. Because I feel like if you know something, how somebody can bamboozle you. So for me, I feel like we just got to put the information out there as a people.
Let me say this. Can I say this?
Yeah.
You know, just me. The Black woman, the African woman, is the most powerful being in the universe. Hands down, there's no comparison. Because out of the Black woman womb came civilization, every race, and they know this because when they went back and they found that fossil Lucy was a Black woman, she was millions of years old. Okay. Second thing I want to say, my elephant in the room is why I go to the healthcare system just treating us unfairly, treating the woman unfairly. Why surrender to a system that was created to treat the women unfairly? So if we go back to the olden days, like you said, we just gotta watch the nutrition, watch the food. But when we go into that system over there, whether it be for anything, you gotta understand them. That's a European system. We don't have Black hospitals. We don't. So we just gotta be cognizant of what hospital we choose to partake in, because they will try to sterilize you. I don't know the name of the surgery my sister did, but they removed some things from her and 5 women the same day because they say they had some form of cancer. And I found that strange because they was in their 30s and they still could bear kids. I'm like, why? They told us she had cervical cancer. 5 women in this hospital this day. All 5 of them had cervical cancer, and once they removed it, none of them had cancer, and I found that strange. So I'm like, we just got to be cognizant of the so-called healthcare system that's treating us unhealthy. That's all.
But Roland, can I say, it's not only the healthcare system, it's what happens before. So for instance, studies again, and I've got to go back to what the evidence has found, that our hair care products affects our fertility. So Black women across the board have a predisposition to fibroids. Black women, and again, once you have fibroids, and I don't know what it is like in the States, but at one point, the first solution they're offering you here is hysterectomy. That is the first solution. They don't say, well, try a natural diet, like Akoti's saying. They don't say try a natural diet. They don't say either it's they'll put these things in you to reduce the fibroids, but the most is initially hysterectomy. And it's when you push back that maybe you might get the other. It's a lot better now, but again, as I said, that was the first option being offered specifically to Black women. And I know that for a fact.
That's why we need our own hospital and research programs and stuff like that. I know they have a Black medical association or something like that. But I believe they're doing research with it. I'm not gonna downplay and say they're not, but I don't know what scale is on. But I agree with Roland with that.
Well, we definitely need to do something about the food deserts in our community. You should not have to, take five, 6 buses to get to a supermarket to buy fresh vegetables, because just like Jimmy said, the only option that we have normally in our communities is foods that are packed with high in preservatives and all these different foreign chemicals, names I can't even pronounce. But that's what we have. We have moms that are working 2 or 3 jobs that are doing their grocery shopping at the corner store where there's fewer choices on fresh produce, vegetables and fruits for her family, meats that are healthy for her family. So we definitely have to do something about getting black our community interested in opening food and grocery stores and community gardens as well.
Can I? Sorry, Roland. Do you want to go ahead?
No, I just was agreeing with I just was agreeing with a code.
Okay. Can I say that there's no what I would call food deserts in England, but what we do have is a crop of what the young people call chicken shops, and these where they sell high fat, high saturated, trans fats foods. And when you pass them, the only people you see outside are the black youth, women, girls, and boys. So, Akoti, although we don't have food deserts, what we do have placed in our community are these foods that are not healthy, that lead to violence, because I don't know if you know, there's been a correlation between violence and foods, and also our fertility.
Okay, so the solutions that I see right now is eating healthy, becoming more informed, um, doing some research behind the things that happen in our community, particularly, and this is one of many things, but something very serious about Black maternal health. What else we want to add to that, as well as trying to get around this food desert situation that Cody is speaking about? What else
Let me
solution
say,
I think we should have?
I think the woman need to have total control of her own body.
Mm.
That's the bottom line. Once the sisters get back to have total control, you notice these people put all these different buildings and administrations around to stop the woman, the population, sterilize the women, all those things. Let her have total control of her body. She's not, I cannot put it, no one's slave. She should not have to answer to someone for what she wants to do. If she's not out here doing all these negative things, leave her alone. Man, my mama had 5 kids. My mama started all at 15, having children, and all us healthy. All us healthy. She didn't go to no healthcare systems, but she did have a midwife. I can remember that with my little sister because I was like 5 years old. I can remember the midwife. She didn't trust, my mother never did trust the healthcare system. When they had all us in there all talking about somebody had yellow jaundice, they just had all us in there trying to give all us shots. 38 of us. And my mama rejected all that, from my sisters to the grandma. So it's just a delicate situation. But if we can just let the woman take control of her own life and tell her, oh, come in here, let's take these pills. Come in here and take this. Come in and take that. They wasn't taking that at one time, and they gave birth to healthy kids, and they lived longer. Grandma lived to be 90. Other grandma lived to be 107. They gave birth to 13. One gave birth to 11. So we just got to understand the woman body is the most precious temple in the world, in the universe, to me, because I can't, it's just to me. I don't know how other people feel. If we can, why we always got to attack the woman? That's something. The woman is always under pressure. Least all these, when they're under pressure, they become depressed, suppressed, depressed. They be so pressed out. That's
Oppressed.
have children. I got a daughter right now. She told me I ain't having no children. And I asked her why. Daddy, look, it's just too complicated out here. Well, I should have said it was too complicated for me to have you, but you here, your mama push you out. So we just got to get out their way, man, and just encourage them to eat healthy like the sister say, and take control of your own life and be cognizant. If you have to go to the hospital, ask questions. Don't go in there telling them you need this. Why do I need that? Let me research this medication that you telling me I need. Let me see if it's going to be beneficial or it's going to be harmful. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to have more harmful elements than beneficial elements.
You know, Brother Roland is right, because I know my mom, she goes in there and she tells the doctor what she's going to put her on. She tells the doctor what script to write for her. So she's already knowing in advance. She's already then diagnosed herself. She didn't already research her system. She just needs the doctor to write the script. So Brother Roland, you're absolutely right. Be knowledgeable. Then you go to the doctor basically for a second opinion. You know what I'm saying? Because you've already armed yourself with the knowledge. They just there to confirm it. Like my mama said, write the script if you choose to be treated with their pharmaceuticals.
Again, but a lot of our people are not as informed and as clued up as we all are here. And some of them, I don't know about in America, but the older generation here see doctors as gods, and they will listen to everything that they say rather than question. And I'm quite glad to hear that Okoti's mother does her research, because most elders will just say, oh, the doctor told me, so I have to do it. And you say to them, try an alternative. And remember, they grew up with these alternatives, especially in the Caribbean, because remember, no healthcare. So they had a strong herbal tradition, and they've come here and they've totally lost that. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. Jamaicans, when women are pregnant, they give them okra to ease the birth. And and it actually works, because it worked on a colleague of mine. But these are the things that we need to get back to, our actual traditions as well as our nutrition, our traditions.
Shout out to Dr. Sebi, man. He's the first one I know came on the scene that really talked about why we're in the condition we're in, all the ailments, diseases, and sicknesses, how we've been misinformed, how there's racism in healthcare, and what have you. And he talked about eating natural and juicing and what have you. And I also read the book, shout out to Kevin Trito, Natural Cures, you know what I'm saying? And his book covered a lot of topics. He exposed a lot of big companies. He talked about canned and packaged food, processed food, what have you. And the information is out there, thanks to social media, thanks to people like you all that's just constantly pushing real information. So for me, I think this was a very good discussion. I can't wait for some more. And I appreciate the topic of Jim Lee, if you bring it to the platform, because I feel like we need more of this. We need to not just talk about the same thing, talk about different things, and not just talk about it, but share it to other people. The podcast and discussion, the information we learn, we know to our people that's around us, and people in general. There's so many people that just don't know what we're talking about. So many people that just so removed from what's going on, because life can be complex. Just dealing with yourself can be complex. So I'm very, very excited about what's to come with CVP, Concern versus Podcast. I want to thank everybody. If y'all don't have any more to say about it, we're going to close the session and whatnot, a podcast, I mean to say, and get ready for the next one next week. So if there's any final words and what have you before we close, y'all feel free to just express yourself.
I want to say thank you, Jimile, for bringing this subject to the forefront. Now you're giving me some more content to do more research on. I'm definitely going to stay on top of that House resolution that's making its way slowly behind the scenes and committing. And also to you, Brother Roland, thank you so much for having the Queens back, for giving a shout out to the women and understanding that, it's definitely hard out here for a Black woman. It's like we got it quadruply as hard out in these American streets, trying to just survive and take care of the family, which the Most High has put upon our spirits to be in charge of. And so, and to you, Major, thank you so much for hosting such a podcast. Definitely looking forward to the next subject. I think you're up next week, right, Major?
Rolling up next week.
Okay, rolling. So yeah, I'm looking forward to your topic and whatnot. And so I definitely enjoyed this conversation. And yeah, it was a great build, and I'm looking forward to the next discussion.
Well, I appreciate the topic. I appreciate both you queens letting me speak and be a part of the podcast. Even my brother Major, because we come up as children together to traverse the same path. But let me all say this quote, and this is a quote I love so dearly. His brother said, "If a person didn't treat you right, they're not gonna teach you right." So you got to be very mindful of the information that we researching. We have to be very mindful of the information that we researching because the information could be so deceiving. Thank you once again. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Major, can I say first and foremost, can I say thank you for giving me the chance? Thank you, Akoti, for your input. Really enjoyed. Roland, really enjoyed your input as well. I think it's an interesting discussion, and I'm glad that I've kind of clicked something off in Akoti, and I hope you do follow up on that, Bill, because it's been lagging a bit. But I'm looking forward to the next podcast. And again, thank you everyone for listening, for giving me a voice. Thank you.
And gratitude to everybody that participated today. For those who listen to this podcast or viewing, thank you for watching it. If you have comments, please leave your comments. Questions, please leave your questions. We new at this, but we true at it. And we're just trying to bring real topics and information to the people. We open to questions. We open to anything you would like to hear from us, right? And hopefully as we grow, you grow with us. Y'all was great. The topic was great. Next week we got mental health, actually Black mental health in the Black community by Roland. And how we do our podcast, if people don't know, we drop a podcast every Thursday, and each co-host have an opportunity to pick a subject to talk about. We do our research, we share the topic with each other prior to the podcast, and we talk about it like we did today. Y'all like and share this, subscribe, follow us, because we really trying to exemplify what's working together is like, and not just hearing from a Cody, Jim Lee, Roland, myself alone, but us together, whether we agree or disagree. We definitely trying to bring some truth, some reality, and authentic view on what's going on and we perceive to be issues and answers to our issues. So I want to thank everybody. Again, y'all take care. I appreciate everything. Until next week, peace.
Life through the seasons, rain and shining. It doesn't matter, I'm still smiling. And I am sorry for the violence, but I had to break my silence. All the hate, childish, meditate, I'm flying. I had to take my time in. Out of the trenches came this diamond. Contract expiring, but I'm still inspiring. When I pull up, it go off like sirens. When you're the captain, you gotta watch for pirates. Yeah, I'm a king, not a tyrant. Hailing from the Zanzibar Island. Yeah. Calling to higher powers. Special tablets set at all hours. Bless me with real ones, keep me from cowards. Clock piece ticking, but please keep me timeless. Exhale the toxins, breathe in the flowers. We going higher, saying goodbye. I guess this my time. I guess this means goodbye.